wanted to come out of the gates full force because we knew we were bringing a fresh version of Cap to people in this movie because of the fact he's evolved since audiences have seen him last. And we just wanted to throw people into it as hard and fast and as exciting as we could.
It's been 9 years since the release of Captain America the Winter Soldier, and it's strange that the sequel to one of Marvel Studios' most forgettable superhero origin stories is one of the most popular standalone films, and easily the best sequel, even to this day, of now the large catalogue of films. Captain America the Winter Soldier is frequently mentioned when discussing the best films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Is it, however, ever mentioned as one of the best superhero films? Well, I guess we'll find out here. Winter Soldier, unlike the first Avenger, is not a superhero film that also happens to be a period piece. Instead, it's a superhero film that also functions as a spy thriller, and stars Robert Redford in a nod to 3 Days of Condor. However, unlike some of the best superhero films, neither film begins as a genre that just happens to have superheroes. Given that, for better or for worse, this film must lay the groundwork for others to follow. Plot revolves around Steve Rogers, a newly minted superhero who is struggling to adjust to life outside of the 1940s, played by the ever charismatic Chris Evans, who exudes confidence in every scene. He is trapped in a new society that appears to need him far more than he appears to need them, and as a result, his friends, relationships, and even values have been vastly outrun by his biology and circumstantial preservation, and he accepts his responsibility by devoting all of his time and energy to his work at S.H.I.E.L.D., ignoring the advice of fellow Avenger Black Widow to leave his current situation and start over. When a mysterious man from Captain America's past appears to upend a Big Brother world that even Steve has grown tired of, the audience is left wondering why Captain America is even fighting this battle. Nevertheless, he is unable to do so as a result. It's fascinating that audience members have been asking that question throughout the performance. They are not put off by Captain America's name, moralistic character, or attire, regardless of how difficult it is to identify with a man who exemplifies excellence in all spheres, from physical strength to righteousness. But the way he portrays these principles is something we can all identify with, because almost all of us, especially those of us who grew up idolizing superheroes, wish we were a little bit like Captain America. The Winter Soldier's work is arguably, in my opinion, Joe and Anthony Russo's best MCU movie. The Russo brothers' vision and a strong script, as already noted, all contribute to the mood, action scenes, and acting being improved. The movie accomplishes its purpose without going above or beyond. This makes it similar to Captain America. The foundation for several crucial future components of the MCU was set by this movie. Joe and Anthony Russo were an unexpected choice at the time, due to their experience on comedies such as Community and Arrested Development. However, Marvel Studios and fans were so impressed with their work on The Winter Soldier that they promoted them to one of the MCU's main creators, directing Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, and of course the second highest grossing movie of all time, Avengers Endgame. The film also laid the groundwork for a number of MCU components. The deconstruction of S.H.I.E.L.D. became a central story aspect of ABC's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., significantly improving the show. Sam Wilson, also known as the Falcon, was first seen in this movie, and who has now taken over the mantle of Captain America and will lead the new movie Captain America New World Order. While Bucky Barnes was first introduced in Captain America the First Avenger, the Winter Soldier solidified the character and provided one of the MCU's most compelling storylines. In fact, in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes work together. He'll be joining the Thunderbolts soon. Sharon Carter, revealed in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier to be the power broker, was also introduced in the film and appears to be a key antagonist for future productions. It's difficult to overstate how influential this film has been on the overall look of the MCU. The MCU has benefited from several aspects that were introduced in Captain America the Winter Soldier. After challenging Crossbones, the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent made a humorous cameo appearance in Avengers Age of Ultron, and in Captain Marvel, Nick Fury's sinister past involving his lost eye was resolved with a subversive joke. It's been a long time. The closing theme from Avengers Endgame was inspired by Captain America the Winter Soldier. Because The Winter Soldier is so good, the MCU continues to draw inspiration from it. The Winter Soldier's main theme was Steve reassessing what he wants from himself in the modern world. His boundaries were tested in a variety of ways throughout the film, including his morals, values, and ethics. In the end, his choices in The Winter Soldier were motivated by love and loyalty rather than a patriotic duty. The movie emphasizes the characters' relationships. Despite being the Winter Soldier, Steve was concerned about Bucky Barnes' safety because of his love and loyalty for him. Steve decides to stop fighting Bucky because he's with him till the end of the line.
Because I'm with you to the end of the line.
Barnes' submission in their final duel was a selfless gesture. Thanks to the years of psychological abuse Barnes has endured, Bucky's trust in Steve Rogers triumphs over the Winter Soldier's brainwashing. Bucky sets out on his own to discover who he is, in addition to saving Steve. Steve couldn't bear leaving Peggy after spending so much time with her, this coming full circle by the end of Avengers Endgame. Rogers' devotion to them does not keep him from harbouring the suspicions about Natasha and Romanoff and pitting his moral principles against Nick Fury's pragmatism. Instead, these internal conflicts raise the question of whether heroism should place a premium on loyalty and trust. He is determined to strike a balance between his interpersonal relationships and his professional responsibilities because he understands that time is of the essence. Rogers' moral integrity was tested because he knew he couldn't trust Romanoff, but he still saved her from the missile strike. Even the newcomer Sam Wilson gained Rogers' trust after bonding over their military service.
Hey, don't you say you left. Come on!
This was meant to be a satire on how soldiers are portrayed in Western media. From then on, Wilson stood by Rogers in every battle, earning his respect and loyalty by the end of the movie, and their relationship culminating with Steve handing over the shield to Sam at the end of Endgame. A Captain America-centered reality which supporting characters such as Nick Fury and Black Widow are given more room to develop. Furthermore, Samuel Jackson and Scarlett Johansson are effectively used, particularly when it comes to illustrating some of Captain America's immediate effects. They emphasize that what has occurred will fundamentally alter the course of human history in the ways they cannot comprehend. Those two characters, as well as Anthony Mackie's Falcon, provide the modern perspective that Captain America lacked, and it is in this contrast that much of the humour emerges. The Russo brothers' impeccable timing is, as one might expect, evidence of their comedic heritage. In this way, the Winter Soldier avoids the tonal issues that plagued the previous Marvel films. We'll circle back to the humour in a moment. Despite having airborne equipment, Falcon brings things closer to the ground. He is the only character in the film who can pinpoint the source of Steve's problems. Speaking of Steve, I think it's fair to say that Chris Evans is just as associated with Captain America in the same way that Robert Downey Jr. was with Iron Man after this movie. Even in comic books, he sells the character's dual nature consistently. This time, the long-lost super military icon doesn't feel like the empathetic, innocent youngster he once was. By sprinkling emotional gut punches throughout the film, the Russo brothers add depth to Captain America and his comrades that were not present in the previous films. Steve Rogers' Captain America finally came into his own in this movie. He transitioned from being the national icon to becoming a wanted person. The movie unveiled a brand new side of Steve by placing him in a situation where he had to make some extremely difficult decisions. It revealed more of his humanity. He failed to notice, for instance, that Hydra was taking control of the entire shield and that he persisted in trying to save Bucky despite the terrible things he had done. Despite his emotional complexities, Steve Rogers can still fight with the best of them. The action choreography in The Winter Soldier transformed Cap into a human cyclone, just as Jack Kirby envisioned him. Over the years, there have been numerous superhero clashes in films and on television, but none of them have compared to these. This is the MCU film with the most violence and arguably the best action scenes. The scene in the lift where Cap fights the SHIELD agents is still one of the cleanest. However, it was clear that Bucky was not holding back any punches, which is why his fights with Bucky was so graphically intense. As hard as it is to believe, the MCU was once known for its witty humour. While it didn't always work and the humour occasionally overpowers the gravity, giving the impression that their heroes are just chilling even though the world is ending. That was not the case with The Winter Soldier. The film threw out stereotypical MCU humour and finally established the tone for the MCU. The heroes reacted appropriately to the situation, which aided the villains. Oh, and how I long for the return to this type of MCU movie, because I can't be the only one tired of the low bar SNL style humour we are subjected to with every current movie and TV incarnation. Anyway, another problem the Winter Soldier was able to correct the situation and made an important contribution to the MCU's villain solution. Many people complain that the villains weren't interesting enough and were alone. In Marvel films, there are two types of villains, schemers and brutes. No Marvel villain, including Loki and the other wealthy businessmen from the Iron Man series, has ever made fans scream in terror. This is due to our familiarity with the personalities of their adversaries. Compare that to the Winter Soldier, a villain who elicited gasps from the entire audience whenever they appeared on screen. Bucky was first revealed as the terrifying nature of force in the Winter Soldier, demonstrating just how powerful Hydra was. Because it was involved in everything, the heroes had nowhere to go. The Winter Soldier solved a major problem by making the villains interesting. The Russos avoided the cool yet tragic cliche with the Winter Soldier. Instead, he is portrayed as an assassin who even the best SHIELD agents are afraid of. He fights in a unique way compared to the other MCU villains. The constant preferences for killing shots raises the stakes for Captain America and S.H.I.E.L.D. when a character is confronted. They are no longer fighting for victory. They are attempting to avoid him or to endure his rage. The other villains in this film, as well as the rest of the MCU's Rogues Gallery, simply do not appear to be as dangerous as the Winter Soldier. Captain America: The Winter Soldier provided fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe with plenty to think about. The amount of world building in this film is massive. Well-known Marvel characters who have yet to appear in the films are named, there are numerous references to previous Marvel films, and the implications of this plot will keep viewers guessing for months, if not years to come. The Winter Soldier is the best Marvel film since Iron Man. Even though The Avengers was a superhero fan's dream come true, The Winter Soldier outperforms The Avengers in terms of craft. Great action sequences, a compelling narrative, compelling character moments for previously undeveloped characters, and enough emotional impact without seeming cliched. To top it all off, it's a must-see for fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It truly is a masterpiece. Well, that's enough rambling for one day.